Right, coming up 1 week from today, of course, it's UFC 280 going down in Abu Dhabi. Incredible main event. But today, I want to talk about SugarSean and Petr Yan. This is a very, very fascinating fight. You know, the general narrative from a lot of people that I see online is that this is Sean O'Malley getting thrown to the wolves like a sacrificial lamb. And that is just absolutely insane, right? SugarSean O'Malley, I think it was 2017. He signed with the UFC, went on the Contender Series, had a fantastic performance, and he's been fantastic ever since. That was 2017. We are now in 2022, October of 2022. It's almost 2023. Can you believe it? So yeah, he's been with the UFC 5 years, almost 6 years, you know, and he's doing very well. He's only got one loss on his record to Chito Vera. Of course, he disputes that, but listen, Chito's my boy. I love Sean as well, but that was a legitimate win. Now, he's stepping up. Petr Yan, Fight Island, huge spotlight, massive fight, and by far, one of, if not the toughest fight of his career, because Petr Yan is a former champion, as we know, was on a tear, doing great things, beat down Jose Aldo to become the champ, knocked out Uriah Faber, looked like he was going to reign dominant for quite some time, and then Aljamain Sterling came along, won by disqualification. But then in the rematch, fair play to Aljamain Sterling, went out there, beat the man fair and square in a very, very close fight. Now, part of the reason, and by the way, I'm not taking away from Aljamain, part of the reason that Petr lost that fight is because he's a slow starter, okay? And that's going to be key for O'Malley in this fight because it's only 3 rounds, right? And being a slow starter, that is a habit, you know, because fighters go out there, they read data, they see what their opponents are giving them, they're trying to see how aggressive they are and all that type of thing. Some people go, bang, straight out of the gate. Younger in my career, when I first started, I would be blazing straight at them. But then towards the end, as you get a little older, a little more mature, and you learn to handle those nerves and anxiety, you slow it down a little bit. But Petr Yan, just by style, does like to take his time, make reads, see what his opponent is going to give him, and then he tends to speed up the tempo as the fight progresses. He cannot do that in this fight. Last time out against Aljamain Sterling, that cost him the fight in a 5-round fight, okay? Now, granted, you know, there is a potential that Petr Yan knocks out Sean O'Malley, right? We saw Chito Vera do it, chopped him down with the leg kicks, and then it was a beautiful elbow. And I'm sorry to say, Sean, but that's what happened. I love you, buddy. So what's going to happen in this fight? Well, we know that, you know, Petr Yan is a fantastic boxer. He's got incredible footwork, and the way that he sets up some of his punches and his kicks is very, very nice. He'll throw a right hand, he switches stances as he changes to close the distance. And closing the distance, it's boiling in here, as I'm sure. You can see the sweat on my forehead. I'm still in Bulgaria. No. Closing the distance, that is going to be key in this fight because, as we know, O'Malley, I think he's 5'11", Petr Yan 5'8", 5'9". I think there's a 5-inch reach advantage on the side of O'Malley. And we know what O'Malley does. He likes to use that boxing. He's so fucking slick. I love watching O'Malley fight. The way he switches stances, the way he dances around the octagon, the way he puts the punches together. Beautiful combinations. The man has charisma. He's very, very slick. He's fun to watch. He's polished. He's a very, very polished striker. So is Petr Yan. But O'Malley has the reach advantage. So that means Petr Yan, obviously, you know, he's got to get on the inside. But that footwork, that switching stances as he progresses, as he advances towards his opponent, as he's throwing punches, he changes stance. But when he changes those stances, every time he does that, he becomes a step closer to his opponent. All while doing that, using elusive head movement, taking his head off the center line. And as I say, gets on the inside. I think Petr Yan has the bigger punching power, you know, and I think that's fairly evident, you know, because O'Malley, you know, has had great performances, you know, and looked very, very good, but he hasn't really been putting people away the way that Petr Yan has, you know, so no shame there. Now, if they get into a clinch scenario, Sean's got to watch for the trips. Okay, Petr Yan has got a very, very tricky game. He was even putting Aljamain Sterling on his backside with those trips, and he does it very well. Of course, he's Russian, he's got a bit of sambo and all that type of stuff. Every fighter that comes from Russia seems to be a master of international sports. Look it up on Wikipedia, I'm telling you right now. What else? Prediction. I guess you want to know who I think's going to win. As I said at the start, it seems to be the common theory that O'Malley's getting thrown to the wolves. He needs to step up. And this is a great opportunity for him to fight a former champion, right? And if he goes out there and he beats him, then happy days for O'Malley. The Sugar Show is flying. And you got to think that if Sean wins, it'll be a title fight next. But if he loses, well, there's no shame. He stepped up. Last time out he fought, I think it was ranked 10, Pedro Munoz. We all know what happened, the IPO. It didn't continue. That was a shame. And we never really got to see much in that fight. But this is a huge step up to a guy that just lost the belt, the guy that was a champ. And if he loses, as I say, Sean O'Malley's stock does not go down because people are already saying that this fight is crazy. So if he loses, they'll say, well, oh, well, he tried stepping up. He had balls. He had courage. So going into this fight, it is really a lose-lose, a win-win situation for Sugar Sean O'Malley. If he wins, amazing. He'll fight for a belt next. If he loses, oh, well, so what? He dared to be great. Maybe next year, 3 fights, 4 fights, 5 fights, whatever down the line. My contact lens is driving me bloody crazy. Sorry about that. Yeah, down the line, he'll get to fight for the belt again, I'm sure. So who do I think is going to win? Do you know what? This is why I think all those people that think Sean O'Malley getting thrown to the wolves is crazy. Because I think Sean wins. I really do. Number one, I think the fact that it's a 3-round fight will go in his favour. I don't see Sean stopping him. I don't see that at all, but I do see Sean winning a decision. I think he's going to frustrate him with his footwork, with his movement, with his elusiveness, with his speed, and his straight shots. Petr Yan's going to have success, of course. The man's a former champion, and it's going to be a tough fight. And I think O'Malley is going to get rocked. He's going to have to weather the storm on occasion. Petr Yan, as the fight ramps up, and as Petr Yan knows that he's behind, certainly halfway round 2, and certainly in round 3, he's going to put the fucking pressure on. So O'Malley has to be perfectly locked in and focused and dialed in the entire time. Okay, he cannot afford to lose that concentration. And believe it or not, that does happen in fights. It's happened to me. You hear many of the fighters talking about it. It's crazy to think because you're in a situation, there's 20,000 people or so in the arena, millions watching worldwide at home. You would think there is no way that you're not thinking about anything else but that trained killer in front of you trying to knock your head off. But it's weird. The mind is weird and the mind drifts. And on occasion, that does happen. So he needs to be locked in, laser focused. He needs to use a lot of footwork, dance around, use the straight shots. And he needs to have that motherfucking chin tucked. So yeah, there it is. I think Sugar Sean O'Malley by decision. What do you think? Obviously, Aljamain Sterling being on the card as well, being the co-main event against TJ Dillashaw. If Sugar Sean can get it done, if Sean can win the fight, I think that sets him up perfectly. Because if he wins the fight, no doubt he's going to call out the winner of Aljamain and TJ. Okay, but that's a separate video. I'll let you know who I think is going to win on that one. But yeah, I do think Sean O'Malley calls out the champ. And if he wins, I think Sean O'Malley fights for the belt next. So there it is. Now listen, as you can see, I'm in a very depressing environment here. I'm still in my hotel room in Bulgaria. Been shooting this movie now for what feels like an absolute goddamn lifetime. Always very grateful of the opportunities, but I can't wait to get home, get back to my normal life, get back to my family, my wife and kids, and of course, get back to the regular studio. So I'm not doing it off my iPhone and in these depressing surroundings. The movie is Red Sonja. You might have seen that, which for me when I was a kid was a big deal. It was one of my favourite movies, believe it or not. So to be in the remake is awesome, but I want to go home. But anyway, Sugar Sean O'Malley, he gets the job done. He fights for the belt next. He wins by decision. What do you think?